republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep. Good evening and welcome to the September 22nd, 2016 meeting of the Radnor Township Environmental Advisory Council. First order of business are to review and approve last month's minutes. Does anybody have any changes? A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Announcements. I have one announcement I'd like to make that is regarding a electronics recycling event that Radnor Township is putting on Saturday, October 15th. It'll be here at the municipal building. It's between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. It is a drop-off type event where you bring your electronics, which they define as anything with a plug, to the township, and it will be responsibly recycled by a company called called Commonwealth Computer Recycling. This event is a little different and exciting in that they're going to be accepting papers to be shredded and properly recycled, which is great. I don't believe we have had a shredding event associated with an e-waste event before, so kind of neat. All in one, again, Saturday, October 15th. Certain things that, like I said, anything with a plug, and then certain things they don't accept, I know are household batteries, the old TVs, the old, what do they call them, CRTs, or those big TVs, I think. There's certain limitations on them, so you might want to check beforehand before you bring your old 600-pound television to there. Just cathode ray tube. Yes. Anybody else have any other announcements they'd like to make?
Yes. Here's something that I heard of through the Chester County Citizens for Climate Protection Group. They are having an event on Wednesday, October 12th in the evening at 7 in the Westchester Borough Hall. It is a program called Italian Market Passive House Up on the Roof. So it is basically a case study by a firm in Philadelphia that does a lot of work in the passive house approach to green buildings. So for anybody interested in passive house projects, that would be a really interesting evening to learn about that.
Any other announcements? I did want to make one mention that this is Sally's last meeting, and unfortunately, we'll be losing her to another competing township. But they'll be gaining a great asset. You plan on possibly continuing your service at another township in some kind of similar vein? This is
I would be happy
right?
to,
It's
yeah.
Lower Merion, right?
Yeah, and I think it would be, the more local groups can talk to each other, the more information we share, the better it is. I'd love to. I hope I can do something like that.
Well, we thank you for your service.
Yeah.
You'll be missed.
Thank you.
Sorry to see you go.
Yeah.
I circulated an email around earlier about whether there was going to be any type of updates for our work group reports. It sounds like it's been very quiet on both fronts, on the green team and sustainable parks. I will say that, Sloan, you want to make anything on the vehicles? I know you can just
I know Steve, we've communicated to Steve Norsini the opportunity to talk to the school district. He's aware of that. I think he's planning to reach out and have discussions. And I'm not sure if that's happened at this point, but he also acknowledged our interest in, continued interest in seeing a hybrid or appropriate, efficient vehicles in the budget. So I think he's going to work with us on that recommendation as he did in the previous couple of years. So I think that's positive, but no concrete news at this point.
And just to refresh our memories, we did we were successful in getting I believe, a hybrid vehicle into the preliminary budget last year.
Right,
And
it was in the preliminary budget,
But not in the final budget.
but not in the final budget.
Yep.
So it got dropped out between preliminary and final, but, you know, it was
Keep-
at least in the process.
Yeah.
and hopefully this year it'll move even further, so.
Right. Great, yeah. Yeah, on the, so anyway, like I said, I don't have anything else on the green team right now, other than to say, I guess this would be a good time to talk about the grant application. You guys, I missed last month's meeting. You had a substantial discussion about the grant. This was a Pennsylvania DEP grant for environmental education, right? And I think there was a $50,000 grant that had a 20% matching requirement, and then there was also a mini grant, $3,000 mini grant with no matching requirement. And was there any kind of follow-up we needed to do about that?
So Beth and I said that we would take this on and investigate a little bit. We had some ideas, and I'd certainly like to put them before this group a little bit and see, you know, what kind of reactions there are. Oh, is that not? Oh, I got to let go. Thank you. So we did review the grant a little bit, and one of the things that we talked about was maybe tying in the project with local schools. Beth and I are both involved in the science fair at Wayne Elementary, and we're looking for some projects there to do. One of the thoughts I had was possibly pursuing a citizen science project. That's actually one of the things that's mentioned in the grant announcement. There are some things around water quality monitoring, for example. There's some other issues that are kind of highlighted as potential topics of interest. I think we'd need to talk a little bit further about it to see what we want to pursue. The process looks to me like what they really encourage you to do is to start by sending a letter of intent to the DEP sometime in November, and then follow up using comments and sort of feedback from that process to do the full application later on. So it's a bit of a long cycle. You can't take a project on until the following summer, it looks like. So we would have to plan things out a little bit in advance. But I think there's potential support for rain gardens and some of the other projects that we've talked about here, and lots of other things that we could probably dream up. The mini grants look a little bit easier because of the lack of matching requirement, although they do still encourage you to go after matching funds if you can. So that's something I think we should talk to the township about.
So speaking of the township, and I haven't looked at the requirements, is there any requirement that it be a municipal authority application?
I don't believe so.
So it could be a school district applying for
I think that's
for that?
right.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I'll need to look at the details a little bit more, but yeah, I think there's a lot of flexibility around how you do it. They do encourage partnership with other organizations. So, you know, partnering up with the school district, partnering with the township obviously would be advantageous.
Yeah. As I recall, they had a suggestion on the 2017 application that it be a project somewhat related to one of their high priority topics, which I think they had as climate change, environmental justice, and
Absolutely. Stormwater management was another big one.
Was water another one?
Yep.
That's great. I've also volunteered at Wayne Elementary on their green team for several years, and there's a new green team leader this year, Betsy. I'm forgetting Betsy's last name right now, but I'm sure that group would also love to help out.
We should connect. The more people we can get on board, the better, right?
Absolutely. So it's Betsy Michaud, and I've actually already reached out to her, and she is starting a new business, but enthusiastic about actually possibly joining this group as well to dovetail. She's fabulous.
Great.
So.
Excellent. Okay. I thought I saw an October 3rd start to the grant applications being accepted. Was that the old grant that I was looking at, maybe?
You may be right. I'll have to look at it
Okay.
again. It's coming up soon is my point. We'll have to
Right.
get on it pretty quickly. But I think, again, we can start with a letter of intent, describe what the project is we want to pursue, and then full details probably aren't needed until a little bit later in the year.
So why don't we, just acknowledging that it's a short turnaround that we're looking at here, can we agree that there's more action happens here before the next EAC meeting? And maybe I would be happy to connect in because of that other role that I have. And maybe we can get something done in the next
Perfect.
couple weeks.
Why don't I suggest this? I think that's a great idea. Why don't we have a little bit of asynchronous discussion? We can do this by email. If Beth and I can reach out to folks and get an interested group together, and we'll include you, of course, and start circulating some proposal materials and get input from the broader EAC, then we can take it from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great. Well, that was kind of my last thing I wanted to mention about the green team. So I guess we'll move on to the next topic, and that would be community environmental education or awareness.
Josh, can I add just one quick thing?
Please.
I just had one more thought. This also is Wayne Elementary, and I don't mean to just keep bringing up Wayne. We certainly could do this at any of the schools, but the kindergarten area that used to be occupied by that strange-looking hamburger thing is now demolished, and the PTO has paid for it to be refurbished and rehabbed with the intention that to create some kind of collaborative outdoor garden-ish kind of space. And so another area we could pursue, even with Betsy or with this grant, would be some kind of, I don't know, like self-sustaining, the kids work in the garden kind of thing too. So I just had that thought just because it's
Love it.
timely. And we just demolished the playground area to make some sort of garden-ish aspect of the
That's a
school.
great idea.
The construction that happened over the summer, I believe, also demolished maybe one or both of the Audubon bird gardens that the green team had put in. I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and they were doing great. As a matter of fact, they were really cool, and the kids absolutely loved those things because they were. If you had the right classroom, your classroom had bird feeders outside of it with plantings, and the kids loved it. And I think we might have lost both of them over the summer. So there's another thought to keep that in mind.
And also, the community garden at Skunk Hollow, the people involved with that might be really interested in supporting something like what you're talking about at the school, with some training or advice.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of community environmental education and awareness, that was the only thing I wanted to talk about was the group at Wayne Elementary. I have some contacts at Ithan and Radnor, but they're not strong contacts. So I do know about the new chairperson for West, but I don't know anything about the other schools. Does anybody else have any?
Do you think it would
Community.
be useful to put a little announcement on the website, a green page or something saying we're seeking ideas, or would that be helpful? Might be
On
helpful to-
Radnor's website?
On Radnor's.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And there's nothing saying this has to be elementary education either. We could involve the high
Open to
school,
ideas.
middle school.
Because we've put stuff out in the past, but it went to the green page. I don't know if it should go on the,
Well, I could talk to Melissa about that to see
Yeah.
whether it can go onto the front page.
that would be nice.
Yeah, but if not, it'll end up on the green, or on the EAC page, which is also not terrible, but we can
Right.
maybe do both.
Somewhere, but it'd be nice to get it out there.
Can somebody reach out to Melissa with that? You guys, do you mind?
Not at all. Happy to
Great,
do that.
thanks, Matt. Okay, so there being no other community education or awareness topics, I'll move on to liaison reports, which we have none because we have no liaisons. By the way, we do have a liaison that comes very regularly from the Planning Commission. Skip Kunda, he's great. Old business, the only other old business that I wanted to bring up was the Earls Lake topic. I'm sure you guys had a wonderful discussion about it last month. I'm sad I missed that. I had the opportunity to speak with the new chairperson of the Newtown Township Environmental Advisory Council. He reached out to me. This topic, the Earls Lake draining and dam removal topic, has been thrust upon him as well. as most of the lake, if not all of the lake, resides in his township, in Newtown Township, whereas the spillway and maybe the downstream stream is in Radnor. He wanted to know how our EAC was handling this, whether it was a topic that we were even discussing, whether we had been asked by the commissioners to even look at it. So I explained to Bruce Killen is his name. I explained to Bruce that we were simply acting as a gathering place or receptacle, for a lack of a better word, for people to come and express their concerns, to discuss the topic, which we provided last month, and people are free to come to another meeting if they want. But we hadn't been approached by the Board of Commissioners to do anything, and we were not going to pursue this topic as a priority topic. It's something that we're interested in, and we would be happy if there's something we need to look into, we will. But from our understanding is that any type of dam removal, lake draining project is something that has to be overseen by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. I think there's permits involved, and things have to be done the right way. There have to be engineers involved. This is something that we're not an expert. We don't necessarily have expertise in. So we figured this would be the best. The best thing for us to do would just be to serve as a liaison between the concerned citizens and the board, if that's what they wanted.
Yeah, I think that's right. We certainly welcome the comments from Nadine, I can't remember a lot, and Laura Luker from the Conservancy. I think it was Nadine who's the neighbor who discussed it with us. So certainly want to hear what's going on, want to stay, helpful or receptive to hearing what's happening. It didn't seem like it was very far along in the planning process. I think that's fair to say. So it wasn't like there was an actual plan in front of us, or it sounds like any of the governmental groups that would have to look into it. I do think it's fair to say, if it does proceed, we'd love to hear what's happening and look to see if there are any environmental concerns. I think we offer to at least let the stormwater committee know that this is on the horizon in case they have concerns. So I'll check if we've reached out or not, but we should do that in case it's something they want to pursue from their perspective. But it didn't sound like there was much to do right now. You think that's fair description of
That's my understanding, yeah. It didn't seem like we had any real jurisdiction there or any direct geographic
tangible to react to. It wasn't. It's not even sure that there is a plan.
It sounds like the process is already delayed in terms of they don't have permits to do anything, and they're a long way off of being able to make any kind of decisions.
Right. Right. But we'd certainly welcome anybody who wants to come and give us an update, or say, oh, this is an actual proposal, and please weigh in, or happy to look at it from an environmental standpoint, because it certainly could raise a lot of environmental issues if they change the lake completely or undam it or whatever else. So.
Yeah, there's one of the big things is like siltation.
Yeah.
Because the lakes or dammed up streams tend to collect silt over time, and then when you get rid of it, now you have all this silt that can come downstream, which is into Radnor. So I think I was reading about this, and I think the DEP process or a permit or plan or whatever it is addresses siltation as one of the hot topics. But yeah, like you said, we'll just keep an eye on it. And
right. And according to, I guess it was Nadine who was commenting, doesn't appear to be any immediate safety concerns with the dam.
There's barely any water in there. I mean,
well, there is some water.
Is there?
Yeah. And she said, there was some, I guess, a crack appeared, but it wasn't major structural, so it doesn't sound like it's, any kind of emergency from that perspective, but.
Cool. Well, the other nice thing that came out of my conversation with Bruce was that he's looking to guide his group in directions that that makes sense for his township. And I said that we could get together and exchange some ideas,
Oh, good.
which would be nice to have a.
That would be great.
I don't think we've done that in quite a while. I mean,
No?
I went out towards Downingtown once, but we haven't done any neighboring townships in a while. So it's good
Yeah.
to stay on top of what our neighbors are doing. And now you can be our liaison to Lower Merion.
Well, there was a great meeting of local EACs a couple years ago that I attended on behalf of Radnor. It was organized by Haverford, and there were at least half a dozen different townships, probably more, but apparently unfortunately, that was just a one-time deal so far.
PEC, Pennsylvania Environmental Council, they used to do that for like the whole eastern Pennsylvania. So there used to be a lot of activity like that, but I haven't heard anything about like something like that in a while.
Well, the DEB grant announcement mentioned EACs specifically. Maybe we can write a grant to get everybody together and.
That's a great
big
idea.
meeting.
That is a really good idea. And PEC, I was told, lost its funding to organize and host those EAC get-togethers. That's why they stopped doing it. But yeah, I think it really fills a need.
Do you have any contacts or any materials from previous meetings that we might be able to build on? Can we have a conversation and see, kind of what interest there would be?
I could dig up one of the emails from the last gathering, which was probably 2 years ago now, and
That
forward
would
it to you. You could just see some names of who was representing which EAC at the time.
That would be terrific.
Okay.
And Sally, how much would it really cost if you wanted to do it, if you had a public building? I mean, is there really any real cost to it, or?
I don't know, but this one was held at the new Environmental Education Center in Haverford Township at the time, and looked to me like, I don't know if they had to pay rent, but there was food. Somebody had donated food for everyone because, the whole thing went on for probably at least 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, I don't know of any other charges.
Okay. So it might be a pretty modest cost, really, especially if it were just a few local townships. That may have been bigger than, we would really need, but it's a good idea.
Is there any other old business? How about new business? Is there any public comment? All right, that was a quick one. Thanks for coming. Meeting adjourned.